Hey guys, what's going on? I was wondering if we could get 100 likes on this video. That'd be awesome. Today I am joined by a very special guest who needs no introduction from me, Slcmof. And today we're going to be talking about the alleged new Batman game that's hopefully coming out later in 2019. That's what a lot of the rumors have been saying. It's not confirmed yet, but that's what most of us think is going on. And the discussion that I wanted to talk with Slcmof about is whether or not we think the Joker should return in this game. He's been in all the past Arkham games. A lot of people have expressed fatigue with the character. Slcmof, do you think that Joker should appear in this game?
Yes, and the reason why is because I believe that he would be a great foil. I'm kind of using that word incorrectly because the foil is usually a counter to the hero, and Joker is a great foil to Batman, but he's also a great foil to the Court of Owls, and this is who has been heavily teased by developers as well, will be the main villain of the game. And we know that they were actually intended to be the main villains of the Damian Wayne Batman game that was canceled or rebooted. But all of that aside, the fact of it is that the Joker is he goes to the antithesis of who the Court of Owls are. The Court of Owls are all about organization, hierarchy, organization, and obviously the Joker is the exact opposite of this. So I would love to see them work together and sort of see their interactions, which I believe that the Joker and the Court of Owls could interact or even be warring against one another. That would be very, very interesting. And also, I just love the idea of the Joker going up this huge, powerful organization and the Joker not caring at all that they have all this money and resources behind them because he doesn't care about existing societal structures or anything. He's insane. So for that simple reason, for the reason alone that the Court of Owls, we do believe, will be the main villains, it would be a huge mistake to not include the Joker. Now, one thing I will say is that I would not like him to be the main villain of the game, but the problem with the Joker is that you can't make the Joker a side villain per se. He has to be a part of the main story.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And with that being said, I do think he would definitely have to have a leading role, but at the same time, I don't think it would have to be the same role that we've seen over and over from the character. I think that there's a lot of really great things they could do, especially if this does turn out to be a Court of Owls story. I think that they could do a lot of interesting dynamics with the Joker, and in some ways it would be a misstep not to include him with this particular story. And also there's, like I said, a lot of different things that they could do with him. If this is, in fact, an Arkham Origins sequel, we could see him locked up in Blackgate and show Harleen Quinzel breaking him out, sort of as a continuation of what was set up in Arkham Origins, and potentially they could even set up a third game in an Arkham Origins trilogy. I think that'd be really interesting, and I just think there's a lot that they could do with him in this game.
So it's interesting as well, because if you're looking at WB Montreal sort of carrying on the legacy of Rocksteady always intended for the Batman Arkham games to be about the duality of Bruce Wayne and the Joker's identity, and every game is about that relationship. The Arkham Knight perhaps most explicitly, and the irony being is that the Joker is dead in the game, but he's still the main villain, which demonstrates how deeply Rocksteady believes in that sort of character dynamic as being crucial to the character of Batman. So the fact that even in games where Joker is dead, he's the main villain in the Batman Arkham games, and he's been the main villain of all 4 Batman Arkham games. This is not to say you can't deviate from it, but it's just to say that to abandon that completely and then pretend that the Joker isn't an important part of this universe would be a little bit odd. So I agree with you that he should be in the game and that there's interesting character dynamics, but also it's just about, if we're making a Batman Arkham game, the Batman Arkham games in and of themselves is kind of inextricably linked to the Joker. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that you're absolutely spot on in terms of how integral he really is to the Arkham series. He's been a huge part of every single game, and I think really if he's not included in this new game, especially if it's a Court of Owls game or something that features villains who aren't as memorable in the Batman Rogues Gallery, I think he'll be missed. I think that we'll get the exact opposite complaint that we've been seeing, which is that people are fatigued of Joker and that they don't want him in the next game. I think it's going to be, where was Joker? This would have been a perfect game for him. And really, you look at his roles in past Arkham games, and, in Arkham Asylum, he was the main villain. Arkham City, he was, dying the entire time. He barely had any screen time. But because of his role in Asylum, it was still impactful. In Arkham Knight, he was just in your head. So I don't know if I really count that as a good role for the Joker. And in Arkham Origins, it was kind of, a lot of people felt very betrayed and cheated by that reveal in that game, and he was really only in the second half. And again, kind of like in Arkham City, he didn't have tons of screen time, but he was still the main villain. So I think if he's given a different role where he's still potentially a leading villain but not the main villain, I think that would be very beneficial to them. And I think as long as he's given something to do that's maybe more interesting or different than what he's done in the past, I think that would be a great step for them to take.
I agree. So think about it this way. Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, no one was upset that, they were in the game. But then you take the two last games of the sort of series, Arkham Origins, people felt it was a cop-out, right? And it was just like a lame way to introduce the character. I happen to disagree, but I understand where people are coming from, that they felt kind of baited, especially after Arkham City, the fake Joker gag, and we got it again in Arkham Origins, and then again in Arkham Knight. It's like the same thing. Like, people feel like they can't get rid of the character, and they're just finding ways to introduce him, but we know that they didn't do it for commercial reasons, because if they did, the Joker would be front and center of the Arkham Knight marketing, that he was there in hallucinations. So it's not a matter of that. It's just a matter that people feel that he's a little overused. But think about it this way, once again, is Rocksteady clearly disagrees with that, because it seems to me as though it was always their intent to have the Joker be in this sort of psychological aspect of the game. So, but here's the bigger question is, when we actually get the game, are people going to be upset that the Joker's in it? Let's imagine that we get this trailer tomorrow and we learn that, like, the Penguin is the main villain of the game. Is anyone really going to say that, like, they're thrilled that the Joker's not going to be in the game at all and that the Penguin is going to be front and center? The Penguin's a cool villain, but I think that people are going to say, actually, the Joker's actually really badass, and he's by far the best comic book villain ever created. Why would we ever be in the position to say that we're sick of him? I understand. I think, like you're saying, people are more sick of the mechanisms within which he has been used in the Arkham games, namely with Origins, with a fake kind of, bait and switch, and then also in Arkham Knight with this psychological, mind game stuff. People aren't fans with the way that he's been utilized, not so much with the character himself.
Yeah, and in some ways it would almost be a disservice to not include him if it's like going to be what it sounds like it's going to be, which is a big Court of Owls game. It could potentially be the biggest Arkham game ever. I think if he has the potential to have a really broad role of doing something in open Gotham that we sort of got to see a little bit of in Arkham Origins, but not a ton, or kind of a different, more interesting role, maybe where he's in Blackgate or Arkham, I think it would be almost a disservice to not include him in some way, shape, or form. But on top of that, I think that it would be absolutely vital that, they don't market him in a misleading way. I think that they need to be very upfront that he is in the game and what his role is. I don't think that they should try to downplay what he does. If he has a huge role, just advertise that he has a huge role. We all like the Joker. As long as you're not trying to bait and switch us again, I think we'll be fine. And also, I'd just say use him in an interesting way. Find an interesting way to use him, whether that be like directly from the comics, one of his regular schemes that we generally see, because again, we haven't really seen a story arc like that in the games, outside of arguably Origins and Asylum, but again, I'd still argue that those were really small scale, or if it's something that's more interesting that we haven't really seen before. But any final thoughts, Slcmof?
No, I just think that the Joker is one of those characters that kind of transcends any individual story. He's iconic. He's the greatest comic book villain ever created. He has made Batman the influential and, popular character that he is today. I strongly believe without the Joker, Batman would not be, the most popular or the second most popular or whatever superhero ever. It's kind of debatable between Spider-Man, but anyway. So the Joker's really elevated that, and I think that there's nothing wrong with using the character once again, especially in the Arkham universe, given his prominence throughout the other games. However, I think that it's just a matter of using the character correctly and intelligently, and applying him in new ways that sort of players don't feel is like a cheap shot.
All right. Well, thanks again so much for coming on the channel, Slcmof.
Definitely.
Thanks again, you guys, so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe again if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.